understanding how to move your hips will make a massive difference when it comes to ball striking, and that's exactly what I'm going to share with you in this video. It is something that I am working on with students all of the time, particularly golfers that I meet for the first time, and it's always the same reaction. They can't believe how effortless the ball striking feels and how they've been doing it wrong for so long. What we need to understand is the downswing. Okay, so what we are looking to do in the downswing position is probably best highlighted with an alignment stick. From the top of my backswing position, what needs to happen as we're looking at the alignment stick here is that the feeling needs to be that the alignment stick is going to go kind of down and around. So when it comes to sort of really good ball striking, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that alignment stick to literally go down and around as we sort of start that downswing position. So if I sort of demonstrate a full backswing, and end up like so, and then as I start that downswing, so the way it goes down, and then it's kind of going down and around this way. Now, as I allow my weight pressure to shift towards the lead side, the reason why that motion on its own is so fundamental is because what happens is that when we move the lower body, particularly sort of pelvis area, if I put my hands across the lower part of this region, if I move that part down and around whilst making sure I shift my weight towards the lead side, what will happen is that my upper body will naturally follow it. I mean, you move your pelvis down and around and try and keep your upper body still, it just won't. It'll be really uncomfortable. So you'll find that this type of motion will trigger a great amount of chest and then shoulder rotation coming in towards this downswing position. So we often get those sort of feelings of, or we're told to sort of stay over the ball and don't lean back, etc. But you've got to understand you need to do it in a rotational manner. So you need to be really practicing that alignment stick sort of going down and around, particularly in the initiation to the downswing. And the great thing with that drill is you can then carry it on. So this downswing, you can see the way I just allow it so that initiation is down and around as I shift the weight towards that lead side, and then it continues to move down and around. And by allowing a continuation of rotation, basically means that I'm going to be able to demonstrate an impact position where I'm going to be able to get the hands forward. So that's why understanding this continued rotation is actually a lot easier than you may think, particularly if you start sort of just practicing with an alignment stick and then just sort of build up your awareness. So with a lot of students of mine, I'll get them with the alignment stick and then they'll sort of do this, but then I'll be like, well, just watch it. And then they'll go, oh, yeah. And it's like, yeah, it really is as simple as that. Now, I'm not saying that's the amount of rotation you need in the golf swing, but what I am saying is that's how we need to start the downswing. So by this moving down and around and then allowing it to continue to move down and around, we'll obviously just continue to move the chest down and around, which will allow the shoulders to continue to move down and around, which means that you'll be able to hit through the golf ball so much more effortless. But, and this is the big but, the reason why you are not experiencing that feeling and the reason why that experience may feel like it's a million miles away is because you're making the same mistake that I see on a day-to-day basis, which is in the pivot in the backswing. If we draw a line in here to represent like a low point line, which basically means, let's just say we've got this line here, and if any body part surpasses that line, you're going to get what's called as stuck. Okay, so we need to make sure that my left hip doesn't surpass that line that I've got here on the screen, because if it does, I can't continue to rotate, and then I'm going to get stuck and have to pass that energy onto something else. So we can't pass that line at any stage, and the thing that I am seeing a large proportion of golfers pass that line in the backswing position. And I'm not sure, it's for different reasons. Sometimes it's just because golfers don't obviously understand that's what they're doing. Some golfers are trying to work on like a recentering motion, which is the feeling of the hips moving towards target the backswing. Again, that's okay, but it's a subtle move. It's not to the point where it's like this. So if I demonstrate a backswing position, and this is the wrong one, see the way that my lead hip is over that ankle line. The problem is from this backswing position now, if I start to move as we said, down and around, you're just not going to be able to. You're going to get massively stuck. So the feeling that you are looking for in the backswing is try and keep your head still, and particularly in the early backswing, let the pelvis move a little bit more towards the right. You need to get that weight pressure in towards that right hand side. Now for many golfers it ends up feeling more like a sliding action. That's because they're so accustomed to going, I'll just stand here and turn. It's like, that won't work. You need to move a little to your right as you turn. Okay, and then as you start the downswing, you see then it's going to be so much easier away from that line to move back in towards it that you just won't believe how easy it is. So the way you want to practice this is you can either practice at home placing an object pretty much over that ankle line, and then just make sure in that backswing position that you get the weight pressure on towards that trail side, keep your head pretty still, and then what you should notice is the way that from here it's so much easier to get that sort of feeling of that hip moving down and around, and that's obviously going to lower your arms into a fantastic position. So when I'm working with students, if you have a poor pivot, unfortunately, that'll have a poor influence on what your arms are going to do. It'll have a poor influence on what your sequence is going to do. It'll have a poor influence on your distance. If you can learn how to pivot, which is more kind of this way, down and around, then you're going to have good arms, you're going to have a good sequence, and you're going to get good distance and good tempo. It happens all of the time. So make sure that you are not one of those that is moving too much this way. Practice at home, allowing the pelvis to shift a little bit more to that trail side in that backswing. Keep your head nice and steady, okay, just to the point where you feel like you can demonstrate a nice rotation, okay, get the weight on that trail side, and then from there you see it's going to be so much easier to just pull that lead hip back in a downward manner that's going to get those hands over the ball, and it's just going to make ball striking so much easier.